Well, sleepless nights, living paycheck to paycheck. That's life for many homeowners at the mercy of the Reserve Bank. There was a moment to rejoice today. After 13 consecutive rises, finally an interest rate cut. But we're being told, don't get too excited.
I feel like I'm failing.
A lot of sleepless nights.
Just give us a break.
Every Aussie homeowner was holding their breath. And today, for the first time in a long time, the Reserve Bank took its foot off the brake.
The board decided today to cut the cash rate by 25 basis points to 4.1%.
Why has it taken them so long? Like, there's thousands of people that have had to sell their house because they couldn't afford to hold on.
Robert and Chandler Blooming both work full-time and, like so many couples, saved scrupulously for the life they wanted.
You know, always made sure that we've kept the savings aside and tried to be debt-free where we can.
The Bloomings bought their Cranbourne East home in December 2020 for $550,000, taking out a $500,000 loan. When they first purchased the property, repayments were $2,100 a month. By August last year, they jumped to $3,400 a month.
In that period of time, we emptied our savings account back to nothing. I had to sell a car.
The great Australian dream, now a nightmare.
We've got a 3.5-year-old daughter, Annabelle. Every couple of months she's into the next size of shoes and clothes and toys.
Two?
Yep. Look, that one's good. Do you think Lexi would like to try one?
Can I try one?
Do you want to share one?
That's a pretty good tomato.
Yummy, aren't they? We've got cucumber, 3 different types of small tomatoes. We've got capsicum, potatoes, pumpkin and corn. It's a great way to save some money and I really enjoy spending the time out here with Annabelle.
It's absolutely great news, a goosebump moment.
Nine's money editor, Effie Zahos, says she's surprised by today's decision.
That will at least give people some options. Either put it back into the mortgage, either be able to go to the supermarket and feel confident that they've got the cash to pay for their basket of goods.
Governor Deb Knight from Nine Radio and A Current Affair. There are some very relieved Australians today, but how difficult was this decision? The board had a very active debate of the arguments on both sides on this, but in the end came to the view that the better decision was to ease a little bit of the restrictiveness.
Nice that they've followed through on what everyone's telling them they should do.
So how much more will you have in your pocket each month now?
Should be around $25 a week extra. It's $25 we didn't have before.
Figured out I'm only going to get about $67 a month extra. It's going to help me through 1 week of groceries, not even.
Zach Norman is a glazier living on the Mornington Peninsula in Frankston. The 27-year-old tradie is paying the mortgage on his own.
This is my water bill overdue. These are the rates overdue. So I'll save the bills. I'll say, I'll pay them in a couple of weeks, and then the mortgage comes up again, and it's just a constant cycle.
It sounds like you are drowning under the mortgage.
Yeah, it's painful.
Looking at the last 2.5 years, it's no wonder Zach's feeling it. Homeowners enjoyed an all-time low cash rate of 0.1% for almost 18 months before the pain kicked in post-COVID, the RBA inflicting 13 rate hikes from May 2022 onwards, bringing it to 4.35%, where the rate has stayed since November 2023 until today. The RBA has consistently justified their decisions with curbing inflation. How do you feel about that commentary?
I think it's a bit of a cop-out. One of the key indicators for inflation is household spending, which includes mortgage repayments. So they put it up, mortgage rates go up, inflation goes up. It's a cat chasing its tail.
Until now. With a few extra dollars saved, Chandler and Robert will treat Annabelle and put the rest away.
We use it towards buying proper toys, not just ones from the op shop that are half broken.
We asked you in a digital poll whether you've actively tried to rein in spending to help lower inflation, and 52% of you said yes. As for this year's election, 65% of you said interest rates won't be a factor in how you vote. And how will you spend the extra money this rate cut gives you? Most will spend it on bills, food and living expenses. 27% on paying rent or the mortgage. 16% will put it in savings and only 3% will treat themselves.
It goes to show that every dollar is accounted for and it's been used. It's already spent. What we'll see now is a flurry of lenders coming out and saying they're reducing their rates. That doesn't necessarily mean they're in the best in the market. So you've always got to make sure you're on the best deal.
Zach says he has no trust in the RBA, taking today's announcement with a grain of salt.
Honestly, I don't really think it changes a lot for many people.
It's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
Well, Warren Hogan is one of the few economists who felt rates should not move today, and he joins me. Warren, how dare you?
Well, they've moved.
They have indeed. And look, you said the RBA would lose credibility if it cuts rates. Why, really?
Well, maybe not. Well, hope not. But the economy is recovering and inflation is not at target yet. We've made progress, but it's not there. And if suddenly we have got an inflation issue, it's going to look a bit silly that they went early. It is an early move. I think it's got a lot to do with this election. Not that they're trying to favour the government, they're just trying to stay out of it. And if they didn't cut today, the pile-on would have really been quite severe. But I do worry that it's too early.
OK, and what are the consequences of that, do you think?
Well, a rate cut, an easing of monetary policy puts inflation into the economy. It also puts demand and employment growth into the economy. And both things matter, but we're doing really well on employment, but we're yet to get this inflation under control. So I think, again, too early, and it does keep inflation going for longer. And their forecasts today show that. They revised up their inflation forecast, which basically says the cost of living crisis is going to extend.
But they've got that down to what we needed to. It's between 2 and 3%. I mean, that's what they said. We've done it, and now we get a little reward.
Yeah, inflation's not at, unfortunately, at 2.4%, which the CPI is at, which is what we sort of reference, because we've got all these government subsidies in there artificially suppressing it. And inflation's probably more like 3 or 3.5. So it's getting there. It's not there yet.
Do you know how many people are sitting at home right now shaking their heads at you? Like you're their least favourite person on the planet for saying this, because most people, I mean, it's been tough, 13 consecutive hikes. This is just a little bit of the pressure off, and most people are rejoicing.
Yeah, but what's really hurting for even people with mortgages, it's the fact that, you know, your grocery bill's going up every week, the price of insurance, and cutting rates doesn't get us any closer to fixing that problem. In fact, it risks making it worse. So we've got this problem in the country that the idea that rates going up is bad, rates going down is good. The act of cutting rates today may have helped people with mortgages to reduce their repayments, but it's actually put more upward pressure on prices in the economy.
So you think this was a political decision more than based on economics?
Well, it was about non-economic factors and political in the broad sense. I mean, I don't think it's the RBA board favouring the government intentionally. It does help the government in their claims about their economic policy and strategy.
Well, we did see the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, jump on that today and say, when we came to office, inflation, interest rates were rising, now both are falling. I guess, you know, when you see an opportunity, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's actually... The RBA damaged their reputation in our community when they said rates weren't going up for 3 years. That was a real problem. I said it at the time, it was a bad idea because they don't know the future, even though they control interest rates.
And also people took that as gospel, went and made investments based on it. And now this is where you're at a point where people are under so much pressure and some, unfortunately, actually losing their homes.
Exactly. And we all know that it's that first few years when you take that extra step to take on the mortgage and buy that dream home. It's those first few years when you're really on the edge to be told that you're going to have this rate position and then for it not to happen. What worries me is in the long term, what Australians expect from the Reserve Bank and the Reserve Bank Board is to get rid of this inflation, get rid of this cost of living crisis, and cutting rates doesn't get us any closer to that.
So you think this was a really bad decision today?
Well, look, it's only 25 basis points, and I don't think it's going to move the dial on the economy, although the way I'm reading the economy since we've got back from summer holidays is it's looking better. We're actually seeing some evidence that people are out there spending a bit more. The housing market in the last few weeks is looking better.
That's not what we're hearing.
At an individual
and I feel
level,
like
no.
for some it's fine, but you know the people that write into our show, the people we talk to, they are really, really hurting.
And look, I'm not sure that a rate cut other than a little bit of rate relief for their mortgage is going to turn the dial for them.
So what would you recommend people do with the extra money in their account each month?
Look, if you are that sort of close to the edge, you've got to build some buffer up. And I know that, and I think many people have had to run those buffers down. But at the moment, we're still in a bit of a risky zone. Just look overseas, Trump, tariffs, there's all these things going on that in the next year or so, we've still got on uncertainty. So I would actually just be careful and try and build some savings buffers, and I think a lot of Australians will.
Do you get it, how tough people are doing it?
Look, I can see that there is a big chunk of our community right on the edge, but the reality is we have to get the pressure off people's budgets, and that is inflation. But it takes time.
You know what? You redeemed yourself at the end. I was feeling all morose that you only have bad news for me, but there you go. There's a glimmer of hope in the future.
Our economy is a great economy, and I think it's going to get there. It just takes time.
Great. Thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Ali.